If you take your racket back early on the forehand, you will hit it late most of the time. And I know what you're thinking, this Nick guy is crazy. If I take my racket back early, I'm gonna have great timing. But there's a reason why you don't really see the racket back early technique from the best players in the world. What you see instead is that the players are waiting with both hands towards the side. Now some players will hold on to the racket, others will have their hands separated, but the racket is positioned to the side of the body. So what is actually a take back? So what happens on the forehand is that we're going to make a turn once we see the ball coming to our forehand side, and now the racket will be positioned to the side like this. And now when the racket starts to go back, this is considered the take back. And if you make this movement early, this will severely hinder your stroke. And there are two reasons why this is the case. If we take the racket back early on the forehand, we're going to make the setup process more difficult. So what should happen on the forehand is this. In a ready position, when we see the ball coming to our forehand side, we're going to make a slight turn towards this side. And now our hands are going to be closer together while we set up. If you ever watch sprinters, they always run with their hands closer to the body. Now imagine taking your arm back, and now you have one arm close to the body, the other arm is back, and now you're trying to set the ball up in this way. This looks very robotic and it feels very inefficient. And secondly, the most important reason why you shouldn't take your racket back early on the forehand is that it's actually going to hurt your timing and you're going to hit a lot of forehands late. And I know it sounds confusing, but I'm going to explain it so that it makes sense. So what happens on the forehand is the following. Players will turn towards the forehand side, and now both hands are going to be towards the side, and they will wait in this position for a long time. On the pro level, especially on the ATP, players will wait until the ball has bounced to initiate the take back. On a WTA, this might happen a little bit sooner, a little bit prior to the ball bouncing on the player side. So you ask yourself, why wait that long? Why not take the racket back when the ball clears the net, or maybe even sooner when you see it's coming to your forehand side? Well, as I previously mentioned, you don't know where the ball is going exactly, so you will have to set it up with the racket already here, and this is going to be a disadvantage. But in addition to that, the way the racket accelerates when we do it from this position versus taking it back early is much different. And there are two reasons why the racket is going to accelerate faster when we wait longer. Number one, when we wait longer to initiate the stroke, the racket will have to accelerate faster. Think about it. When the ball is already close to us, there is no other way but to accelerate the racket fast, otherwise we wouldn't be able to make contact. As opposed to taking it back early, that's where you develop some hitches where the racket gets stuck and the forehand all of a sudden doesn't look smooth anymore. So by waiting longer, the racket will accelerate faster and will therefore look very smooth. The acceleration is going to be gradually increasing from slow to fast, and this is exactly what you see on the Pro Tour. And the second reason why the racket will accelerate much faster if you wait longer is that it can build up momentum. So think about it. If you take your racket back early and now the racket is sitting in this position, now the racket will have to pick up the speed from zero, and this is why a lot of players, they take their racket back early, and you can take a look at some of the juniors at your local club. You will very often see them set up in this position. They're waiting for the ball. This is a recipe to hit the forehand late, because now the racket has no momentum to work with. You will have to pick up the speed from zero, and you will indeed hit the forehand late very often. See, what happens on the professional tour is that the racket never sits in this position. It's never a fixed position. It's a fluid position that the racket comes in and out of very quickly. In fact, it is so quick that it's not visible to the naked eye. So this is the reason why you should adapt the technique of the pros, and your timing is going to improve. What needs to happen is the following. You're going to wait in this position, and then when the ball is close to bouncing, you start initiating the take back, and now the racket really doesn't have any more time to stop, and it will gradually accelerate. So the first part of the stroke is going to happen somewhat slowly, and as the racket starts to grow up, it's going to increase the speed, and then as you hit the forward face, you're actually not even going to be aware of the racket. That's how fast it's going to accelerate in relation to the ball, and also because it has picked up some momentum from going from your loop into the racket drop. So taking the racket back early on the forehand is not a good thing to do, but you should definitely prepare early. So this is something that's extremely important on your forehand. You don't want to be late in your preparation. So when you're waiting for the ball in your ready position and now you see the ball coming to your forehand, you can do this first move very quickly. And the second move also needs to be quick and done with a lot of intensity so that you set up the ball very fast. But avoid the temptation to take the racket back too early and having the racket sit here. This will not only cause harm to the continuity of your stroke, but will also very often hurt your timing. So here are my recommendations for the rec level. See, what you see on the ATP Tour is that players will often wait for the ball to bounce on their side to initiate the stroke. In other words, to separate the hands and start taking the racket back. In my experience, a lot of recreational players feel a sense of anxiety if they wait that long. So what I teach is to wait until the ball is about to bounce. And this will still result in a more continuously accelerating stroke and good timing as well. So guys, the next time you're on the court, try it out. You're going to turn towards your forehand side, you're going to wait until the ball is about to bounce, and then once you initiate the stroke, just accelerate, and what you will find is that your timing is actually going to improve by waiting longer. As crazy as that sounds, taking the racket back early will cause you to hit the forehand late.